Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to me, I suppose, as guest. It's been about a month. But I wanted to say hi, bring you a video, and do a little talking. It's been about a month or so since my last video. I am now in Korea for a year. So I'm living out of a single room, even though I'm Air Force. I am sitting here in some high quality Army barracks, so that's super. And I'll be here for the next year before I get to move to Las Vegas and start the next chapter of my life. So today we're gonna go back to watches, but it's not gonna be what I'm normally talking about, which is the mechanical watches. Today I want to look at kind of outdoors watches, military watches, and we're gonna look at the Suunto Core, which is an ABC watch, or altimeter, barometer, compass, and we'll kind of do a little mini review and talk about likes, dislikes, and what I think about it. Before that, I will do a wristwatch check, and today I'm actually wearing, from the early 1900s, this is a World War I watch. There you go, a trench watch, and it's got one of the period correct cases on it. It's got beautiful blued hands, a lovely porcelain dial. This is from Waltham. So it was one of the U.S. makers. I still haven't found a strap I'm completely happy with. This one's not quite tight enough for me and for my tastes, although I really like it. But I kind of like that style of strap because it's got 10mm lugs. So it's kind of got that double style, but really beautiful watch. So wearing that, and kind of in commemoration of a watch I wore my last deployment. So my last deployment, I wore this mechanical one because I'm a mechanical watch lover and a little bit of a romantic as well. I wore this for all my flights and sorties, my Zin, and let's see if you can see this on the back. I had it engraved when I came home to kind of commemorate that. So let's see if you guys can see that. Let me figure this out here. Which way do I want to go? So you can see I got it engraved with the year, where I was, how many sorties I flew, and that sort of thing. So my Zin for all my days flying, and for all my days on the ground, I wore the Suunto Core. So that's what we're going to talk about. But to commemorate that, look at some other watches out of my military watch collection. I brought 3 of them with me to Korea. I left 2 at home because they both need servicing. So you saw the World War I, the Waltham. From World War II, I have this Elgin. It's an A11. So you can see that one there. This one and the next one both have the military markings on the back, so you can see in here. Military markings, type A11. And then I also have an if I remember right, it's A17, I believe. Yes, A17. So here you can see the military markings on the back. This is a Korean War era. And this one is a Bulova. So, or Bulova, depending on who you are. So there's the 1950s Korean War era Bulova. So it's interesting kind of seeing the evolution, World War I to World War II to Korean War. And I find that really interesting. So I really like having these. But today, we're going to look at the Suunto. Before that, like I said, I'm wearing my Waltham, having a beverage in my little Yeti tumbler, having a little bit of the Bullet bourbon. That's what I got with me right now. I'm still waiting for most of my stuff that I was able to bring here, because I can only bring a little bit of my stuff with me because it's one room. So I'm waiting for my stuff to arrive. Next week, I think it's supposed to arrive. So I'm living with a limited amount of stuff. All right. So you guys know I'm in the military. Spent time downrange. I'm a watch nerd. I'm interested in gear and useful stuff. I enjoy camping, backpacking, and so on. So this is kind of an extension of that, as are, firearms and knives and tents and backpacks and clothing and shoes and gear, all the gear you use for that kind of stuff. So the Suunto Core. This is a really common watch right here. Altimeter, barometer, compass. So this main section here is your time. I have it set for 24-hour time. This bottom section here has a number of functions. So you can see right now, I have the all black, which gives the blacked out dial. It's a little bit harder to read on the camera in this light and in some lights, so that's something to think about. You can see there, I have the day date, so Friday, December 28th. And if I click this button down here, you switch it over, so we have seconds. If you can see that, hopefully you can. Click it again. That's another time zone. I believe I have it set to New York, I think. This is the sunset, sunrise. This is a timer. And I believe this is a countdown timer. And then nothing. And then back to day date. Now, I mentioned it's an altimeter, barometer, compass. So on this side, you can see there's 2 buttons. On this side, there's 3. The middle button is what you use to use those functions. So if we press that middle button, you can see now we've got the altimeter. So I haven't reset this since leaving New Mexico when I lived at 4,300 feet. So this is not accurate for where I'm living right now, and I would have to recheck that. You can also see down here at the bottom, we have temperature in Fahrenheit. One thing I will say about all ABC watches I've ever used, I've used both the Suunto and 2 G-Shock, or a G-Shock and Casio ProTrek line, and all 3 of them, the temperature is not particularly accurate. So when you're wearing the watch, it's hot, so you have to take the watch off and leave it off for a while to get an accurate temperature reading, and that's just not useful to me. So for what it's worth, I don't think the temperature function is really that useful. But it does have the temperature function down here in the bottom section with the feet. And if we go to here, we've got the compass. And it has a time, my local time down here at the bottom, and then the compass. And then the last one, we're back to time again. So, how do I feel about this watch? Well, one, it's with me from last deployment command I worked with. Used a lot of these watches. I will say I don't really confidently trust it for a lot of serious underwater work. I don't trust that the waterproofness is going to hold up. The blacked out dial can be hard to read sometimes. However, at the same time, it also is really subdued, and you're not going to, notice it on someone's wrist, which is really helpful if you're out in the field. Right now, you're not going to be able to see it, but there's a ticking around the outside. There's a little digital tick mark going around the outside for the seconds. Just saw that as we're going, thought I'd mention that it does do that. Another thing, it's not solar. For some people, that might be a downside. From a tactical perspective, that's actually an upside. I worked mostly, the first half of my day was before the sun came up, and I was usually asleep by lunchtime, so I slept a lot of the day away when there was actually light outside, and I'm not going to take my watch off and hang it up to charge while I'm sleeping. That's silly. So from an actual usable perspective in the field, that's not really a great function. So just having a watch like this and then having an extra battery with you is much more reliable than having the solar. Because now you need to find someplace to charge it while you're in the field. That's not particularly useful. I think it holds up pretty well other than that limited waterproofness. I like the look of it. It's really light, so I like the feel of it. Compared to like those big G-Shocks, I actually find this to be much more comfortable and fit better. I like the way it is on the wrist. It's still large, especially for me, a thin guy, but it's not quite as ridiculous looking as a G-Shock. For example, the G-Shock that I really most like to wear, which I will do another video about at one point, is one of the little square ones, and this one's also completely blacked out. No words are on the outside, but the little square ones actually fit okay. But the big ones, I've had, the Mudmaster is okay, it's feasible, but I prefer having the ABC functions. The Mudmaster is not an ABC watch. You go up to the Rangemaster, it is an ABC watch, but it's bigger than the Mudmaster, and at that point, it just doesn't work for me. So this I find much more comfortable. The band design is much more comfortable to me. It's thinner and less bulky, especially up in here. I find this to be less bulky when it comes to shirts. It's just a more comfortable design. I do, however, I will say, I would trust the G-Shocks or the Pro-Trex for waterproofness over the Suunto, if that matters. The Suunto is going to be fine in rain and things like that, but I wouldn't go scuba diving with the Suunto for what it's worth. You can see here in the back, it's got a little screw-off metal back. It takes, let me make sure I get this right for you, the CR2032 batteries. And those are easy to find anywhere. Change the battery out every 2 or 3 years and you're good to go, depending on your usage. I'd say about every 2 years would be pretty normal. I think last time I was just a bit over 2 years, but heavy usage would probably put you just under 2 years. So, 2 years, give or take a little bit on the usage. But yeah, this is kind of a watch I don't worry about beating up. I don't know if you can see down here in this bottom section. I keep going the wrong direction. I get so turned around the camera. In this bottom section down here, there is some of that black wearing off. It doesn't really bother me. This is a watch that's meant to be worn hard, and that's kind of natural when you're banging it around with your equipment. I mean, when I was wearing this, I was carrying around a handgun, sometimes a rifle, hopping in and out of vehicles or aircraft or whatever, throwing backpacks on and off. It gets beat up, so that's kind of natural. Would I suggest this? If you're into like camping, backpacking, shooting, basically any of the outdoors activities that you would do, kayaking. I would even say it's probably going to be okay with like kayaking and canoeing. The only thing I probably would not recommend this for would be if you were going to do dedicated underwater activities. When you're canoeing or kayaking, like say you're taking a 5-day canoeing trip and you're canoeing and fishing and camping out, you're not intending to dunk yourself in the water. So it's not going to get seriously wet. But barring that, I would totally recommend this watch for those kind of functions. I think it's got everything you need. It's comfortable. It's lightweight. It fits well. And actually, we'll stick it on the wrist and give you guys a look. Now, for reference, I have just over a 6.3 inch wrist, so about 6.33-ish wrist. So I'm pretty thin, and although it's large, it's not uncomfortable and it fits reasonably well. So we'll get that, and you guys can see, there we go, how it looks on my wrist. You can kind of see there. So it's large. But it's not ridiculous like the way a G-Shock is. It fits the wrist really well, and it's really comfortable. Pardon the dirty fingernails, by the way. Got off work again and just haven't gotten into the shower or cleaned them out yet, so that'll get done later tonight. But I want to get this video done for you guys first. Get the work done, then take care of yourself is the way life seems to go most of the time, so I'm going to keep with that. And that really covers my thoughts on the Suunto Core. If you guys are interested or have any questions about it, leave that in the comments below. And as far as other videos coming up, I am in Korea. I don't have a lot of my outdoor gear with me, but I did bring a few things. I do want to do some discussions for people who also enjoy the outdoor activities, backpacking, camping, shooting, canoeing, kayaking, vehicle or tent camping, whatever it happens to be. I'd like to be able to review some gear, some ideas on kind of how to prepare for those kind of things. So not just gear, clothing. The idea of how would I layer, what kind of gear would I bring, for sleeping bags and tents and things like that. Maybe people would be. I don't know if anyone would be interested in kind of how I set up the idea of if I'm camping in the fall or spring or winter, staying warm, not just clothing, but just gear in general, everything. So if you guys are interested in those kind of videos, I'm going to do some basic ones, like not like camp knives and certain types of gear like that pretty much anyone would use when they're camping. But if you're interested in anything more specific, go ahead and bring that up in the comments. And I know some people mentioned about obviously wanting more watch content, so I'll keep the watch content going as best I can. And I've also heard mention of there's comments about discussing some military experience, like experiences from Afghanistan or elsewhere. And if I can find the right way, I want it to be interesting and bring something valuable to you guys. So if I can find an interesting way to talk about things that I can talk about, I will do that video then. I will need time to kind of think over what to talk about, which way to approach it, and that kind of stuff, to hit on interesting things, or what I would think would be interesting things, and bring something of value for you guys. Other than that, thanks for watching. I do intend in the next couple weeks to at least do 1 or 2 more videos. I want to do some knife stuff, maybe a couple of flashlight videos as well, maybe a couple more watch videos. Obviously not all in the next 2 weeks, but I want to get rolling on these types of videos shortly. It'll help in a week or so when I get all of my stuff here. That will help as well, help me get more organized and get videos rolling. Otherwise, I'm just going to let my laptop camera like I am right now, and a little bit limited. But hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.